So I don't know if this is live or not. Am I live? Am I live? Facebook has changed their platform, and I've had crazy tech problems. So it's really hard to tell if it is live or not. If anybody is here and you see this, just shoot something in the comments. Okay, actually, I think that it's going. So that's awesome. Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, today we're talking all about mindset, and I know a couple of you, we've had a couple of videos earlier this week, but as I mentioned a second ago, Facebook changed their platform, or at least on my end they did, and it's been really hard trying to figure this out. We've had all sorts of tech problems. So anyway, back again today talking all about mindset, essentially what it is, why it's important, and how you can use it to make shifts in your business as well as in your life. So Nadine, I'd like to thank you first of all for that question, because I think oftentimes, we hear about mindset all the time. It's kind of like, I don't know, you hear it in every group, I feel like, but ultimately, if you don't know what it is, it can be hard to apply it. So we'll dive into that right now. What is mindset, essentially? If you have a business, chances are you have definitely heard of this, but Oxford essentially defines mindset as the established set of attitudes held by someone. So it was actually first referenced in, I think, the 1930s, and it was talking about the habits of our mind that are formed by previous experiences. So it's commonly referred to when we're talking about the way that someone approaches situations and really life in general. And a person's frame of mind or their mindset will influence the way that they perceive what is possible and those outcomes. So there are two different types of mindset, which you've probably heard of, but we'll go into those now as well. There's a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Now, in a fixed mindset, what that really means is that someone thinks that there is essentially a limit or a ceiling to their abilities. For example, if they fail at something, they're going to tend to think that it's just something that they're bad at. Like maybe they suck at it, and that's just the end of the story and chapter closed. A growth mindset, on the other hand, is when someone can look at a way to actually grow. So either push past that ceiling, or if they haven't hit it or they're hitting it, they know that they can still break above that, if that makes sense. So for them, failure is really an opportunity to learn and better themselves and do better next time. So there's always there's always room to learn and grow from situations. In my opinion, there is anyway, but every single obstacle or situation that we encounter really does give us an opportunity to learn and grow. So that is a growth mindset. Your mindset is a big deal, obviously, but why is it such a big deal? Well, it can really play a huge role in your happiness, your health, your relationships, your finances, and particularly your business. And your business kind of takes all of those and winds it up into one. But we can be our own worst critics, and we can really sabotage ourselves at every possible turn if we let ourselves. Sorry, the wind is like blowing my hair like crazy. I see a couple of people are on here, by the way. Type a comment, let me know that you're here. I can't see who's watching unless you say something. Also, the comments are sometimes a little delayed, but I will respond, don't worry. So anyway, that can be really true, even if we don't recognize what we're doing, and we do keep going in the same patterns and just over and over and over. But here's the thing with mindset. Our mindsets can actually influence the behaviors that we take, any behaviors those are. So if we have a mindset or a belief that we can stretch and we can grow beyond our current abilities, if we can go past that ceiling that we were just talking about, then we can grow and we can really achieve things that may currently be outside of our reach. They may currently be outside of our ability. But then we are more likely to actually push through those challenges, and we can really reflect and understand how to approach something differently next time and then adapt. So if we believe that our abilities have limits, we kind of look at it with a that's it attitude. Like this may mean that we don't choose to seek understanding, or we don't adapt, and we really just accept that failure that's the option. And sometimes this can even manifest itself in ways that we choose to not even do things or even try at all because we don't believe that it's going to be possible to be successful. We only believe in failure. And that's really, really sad. So if you are here, I would venture to guess that you have a growth mindset. That does not mean that scarcity doesn't pop up or anything like that, or fixed mindset tendencies. But as an entrepreneur, our mindsets really will help us consider options that are possible for our business. So when you remember, I said there are two types of mindsets. There's a fixed mindset and there's a growth mindset. A fixed mindset, again, just means that we're going to accept the status quo and act in scarcity. So scarcity and the scarcity mindset is really, really limiting, as you can guess. And it has a tendency to hold people back because it creates essentially this self-fulfilling prophecy. And when acting with a scarcity mindset, someone usually believes that there's only a small piece of a pie that may be available or achievable. And it really is just this, well, this is as good as it's going to get attitude. So on the flip side, there's a growth or what's known as an abundance mindset. Again, if you're here right now, if you're starting a business, if you're thinking about starting a business, anything of the sort, you are more than likely falling in the growth mindset category, which is phenomenal. And again, that doesn't mean that self-doubt and scarcity can't creep in, because they absolutely will. But having a growth mindset just acknowledges that there are possibilities. So growth mindsets recognize that even if something is not true today, it's not true in this exact moment, with a little bit of dedication, consistency, belief, and passion, you know that it is absolutely possible. And it can be whatever you want it to be. It can be signing clients. It can be having monetary success, retiring your significant other, building a successful business, whatever, whatever your it or your thing is here, you can insert, and it's applicable. But growth or an abundance mindset is an optimistic view where you are not simply winning or losing, but you are always learning. So this view focuses on growth and what could be or already is, what could be rather than what already is or what is lacking. Sorry, I said that a little bit wrong. Okay. Tell me you're here, guys. Feel free to say hi. One thing I would like to point out, though, is that other people's beliefs about you do not define you at all. And that can be really, really hard to navigate when you're first starting to dive into mindset. Now, sometimes we grow up with parents who may not have been supportive, or maybe kids were really mean to us growing up and it made us feel like we couldn't do something. So if you'd like a real life, kind of embarrassing example, but still real life nevertheless, when I was 6, I got this Celine Dion CD. I don't know if you guys know who she is, but she has like a really, really big voice, and she's the lady who sings the My Heart Will Go On song in Titanic. Anyway, I loved the CD, and I totally would belt out all of these songs. Had so much fun with it. And one afternoon, I had 2 friends who came over, and we put that CD in, and I sang my freaking heart out. Well, anyway, suffice it to say, they made so much fun of me, and they were really, 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 really mean. And I started thinking that I was awful. I stopped singing in front of people. I felt really terrible. I felt really not good enough as far as like sharing my voice, if that makes sense. And to this day, I'm still incredibly uncomfortable singing in front of other people. And while no, I'm not 6 years old anymore. You're not 6 years old, obviously. But my point is that past experiences can really have a huge influence on how we deal things in on how we deal things in our present moment. So this is where mindset and really having a handle on it becomes so important. You have to sift through all of that crap in your head and all of the stuff that you've heard, and you have to figure out what you truly believe, like deep down what you believe, not what you've been told, not what other people believe, what you believe. So that could mean years and years. Oh my God, there's me. I'm really sorry. I really should not be outside, but inside the lighting is really awful. But that can mean sifting through years and years and years and years of just crap, honestly. And mindset work, I think, is some of the hardest work that you may ever do. But when you have a rock solid mindset, you really are unstoppable, honestly. So it's a well-known belief that like attracts like. So if we want more positivity in our lives, we have to focus on creating a positive mindset. So how can we start to shift our mindset? How can we create a positive mindset? 4 key things. We can know and be aware that mindset matters, and you are not the problem. You may just have some thought patterns that aren't serving you. You can start being aware and start to notice these thought patterns. Start thinking about that thought pattern feedback loop. So how that affects your mood, how you act, the decisions that you make, the results that you get, et cetera, et cetera. And you can also start to work on starting to change those ingrained patterns. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, and you're going to notice that I'm talking a lot about patterns, but we will dive into that. So for me, I work on my mindset every day, and there's still a lot of things that I'm working through, and a lot of things that really honestly just trigger the crap out of me, but I've seen so much growth after doing mindset. Now, for those of you who know a little bit about my story, you know that for the first 3 years in business, I thought mindset work was just ridiculous. I thought it was like mumbo jumbo. I thought it was silly and people were kind of crazy. It wasn't until I started to shift this belief and start to even be receptive that mindset may have its benefits, and then started practicing it, that things really took off for me. And that is one thing that you can look at that successful entrepreneurs and really a lot of successful people have in common. It's that they work on mindset and that they are positive and that they are aware that this is important. So don't feel like you have to do all of this perfectly. You don't. It's more about being mindful and figuring out what works for you, really. So bottom line, the fastest and the most impactful way that you can shift your mindset and really lean into that growth is to reprogram your thoughts. So a good place to start could be affirmations. So affirmations by themselves are not going to change your life. They're simply a tool to help you work on your inner talk. So in order to do this, you can start looking at the negative things that maybe you say to yourself every day and kind of flip those around. So I once had a business coach who encouraged me to actually name that annoying little voice in your head, in my head. If you have one, I would encourage you to do the same. It's actually really, really powerful. So for mine, let's say she was Negative Nancy. So that little voice in my head, she had a name, she had a voice, and I could really acknowledge that she was there. That was totally fine. But at the end of the day, I realized that Negative Nancy was just there to really try to protect me. Like, fear is a way to protect us. But I could start shifting Negative Nancy, and you can start shifting your own Negative Nancy into Positive Polly over time with really, really small and mindful steps. So for example, if you tell yourself, or you tell Negative Nancy, or you find that she's telling you, you can't do this, you can really flip that on its head and start with, actually, I can do this. And it sounds so silly, but it's so, so impactful and it's so powerful. And just recognizing that that is there and flipping that on its head can make such a tremendous difference. So something else I would recommend to do is to shift that into present tense. So for example, if you're struggling right now to sign clients, and maybe Negative Nancy's saying, oh my God, I'm never going to sign clients, and that's the thought pattern that's going through your head, try to flip that on its head and say, I sign clients with ease. It may not be true in this exact moment, but again, growth mindset here. If it's not true exactly right now, you are working towards it, and one day it is going to absolutely be true. So it's just shifting that mentality. And I talked a lot about patterns before. So our brains are really, they're really interesting things, and our thoughts can get stuck in patterns and really bad habits. So if we jump to how we defined mindset in the beginning of this video, quite literally by definition, mindset, when we're referencing it, is what we're talking about are habits of our mind. So habits, patterns. So what I mean by this is, let's go back to the signing clients example. If you are stuck signing clients right now and your first thought always reverts to, I don't know what I'm doing, then those thoughts are constantly going to be reinforced in our lives, and subsequently it's going to be insanely difficult to sign clients. So you're really reiterating that, and it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So our neural pathways are always going to take the easiest route. So you can kind of think of them like ruts in a muddy road. If you've ever, driven on a dirt or gravel road after a rainstorm, or you know what I'm talking about, like there are just these deep ruts. Well, it's easier to take that path. So if you're driving down this muddy road, it's so much easier to stay on that pathway that's already been created than to veer off into uncharted territory and create a new path. So the first time is going to be really difficult. You know, your car is going to kind of try to pull back to this rut. It's going to be really difficult to keep veering and staying on this new path. And maybe the second time, it's still going to be difficult, but it's going to get a little bit easier. And then the third time, a little bit easier. It's the same with our minds. So when we start to make that new path, it's really difficult and it's really easy to slip back into the ruts, but just continue on that new path and it gets easier and easier because our brains really do work the same way. We really have to train them. So that's why when we're first starting to dive into mindset, it's so important to just be mindful of our thoughts and how we view things and honestly what we're telling ourselves, because our thoughts, honest to goodness, our thoughts really do become our reality, which is crazy. And it's also amazing because that means we are capable of achieving so much. We just have to work through it and believe that we can, and then take those steps in order to make it happen. Okay, so we talked a little bit about affirmations. Another way that we can shift mindset is by practicing gratitude. So this is one of the highest vibrational feelings, and it's also it's a fast way to help yourself feel calm and happy in your life. So by practicing gratitude, I mean to start being mindful, and all of this is working on being mindful. So start being mindful of what you're thankful for and being grateful for it. So you can write in a gratitude journal, you can say it out loud, you can call a friend and tell a friend, whatever it is, but it's just being mindful and then being grateful for it. So for me, there was a while when I was in a really, really low point in my life, and subsequently my business was not doing so hot. So what I did, I started writing out 10 things that I was really grateful for every night before I went to bed. And at first, I was in just a negative space. It was not the easiest thing to do, which 10 does not sound like much, but if you struggle with writing 10, that's okay. It's okay. It gets easier. Just keep going. So it may sound silly, but it's amazing how much of a difference that can actually make in our thought patterns and really in our lives. Okay, so we've got affirmations, gratitude. Something else you can do is move. Energy lives in our bodies, and when we don't move our bodies, that energy can really get stuck. So find any movement that you like, any movement that you love, dancing, walking, running, yoga. Yoga is a good one. Just get some movement and get that energy flowing. And this is particularly true when no one can go anywhere because we are all stuck inside all day. So really just try to get your body moving. All right, and next we can shift by meditating. So for meditating, you don't need hours in a day to practice it. Honestly, even 5 or 10 minutes can make a really, really big difference, and you'll see the impact after not too long. So if this is something that you're worried that you have to like pull a yoga mat out and, sit with your palms up and saying for 60 minutes, that's great. You can totally do that, but you don't have to do that. You can practice meditating while you're walking your dog or doing the dishes, whatever. The trick is, again, it comes down to being mindful. So, Melody, I know that you had a question about shifting mindset. So let's go ahead and dive into that. How do you shift into an I can do this mindset when you're about to do something that scares the crap out of you and you feel like people are going to laugh at you? Freaking amazing question. So the biggest thing that I would try to say with this is try to flip the script. Every single entrepreneur feels fear, and fear is really, it's a way to protect ourselves. Everyone goes through it. And in that, I think there's some solidarity in knowing that we're not alone. But if you are struggling with feeling like maybe there are already enough people doing what you're doing, and how could there possibly be enough room for you? You can try to flip the script to there's only one me and only one person who has my experience, my approach, my insight, and will have this support in the way that I offer. So my experience makes me worth listening to. If you're thinking you're never going to be good as Sally Sue next door or whoever, try flipping the script to that's awesome. Sally Sue did it. Totally proof that I can do it too. Really, I think if you don't do something to avoid the possibility of failure, you're also avoiding the possibility of success. So this cycles a little bit back into scarcity mindset, which is normal for it to pop up from time to time. But if you're pushing off starting that group, launching that podcast, announcing that program because you're terrified of failing, try to flip that script. So try flipping that into I'm always learning, I'm always improving my craft. And Melody, something else that I think may be good for you is something that's been helpful for me when I feel like I'm going to throw up because I'm so scared of failure or judgment. Those are my two really big fears, by the way, is thinking about the people that I'm serving and the people that I want to impact, and really the reason that I'm doing this and to begin with. So you can always go back to your foundations, and like, even though it's going to be scary or you're worried that people are going to laugh at you, those people don't matter. So come back to why you're doing this and remember the people that you're serving. So again, this goes into branding and foundations, but when those thoughts are popping up, try to flip that script and shift into why you're doing it. Who are you speaking to? If you need a little extra push, also know that literally, like, you are the only person in the entire world that can do this thing and share this message and serve your audience like you can. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's also, I think in some ways it can be a big responsibility, which is really scary, but it's so powerful and it's so impactful because like you're the only one that can do that. So try to think of your audience when it is scary, because I know a lot of stuff is super, super scary. And even like having those girls laugh at me when I was little, like it's really terrifying, like worrying about that happening. But 9 times out of 10, people are going to be incredibly supportive. Know that, which I think you know some of that from RTS. But 9 times out of 10, people are going to be incredibly supportive. The 1 out of 10 doesn't matter, even though it's hard to deal with. But push all of that to the side and just think about the people that you are serving and the reason you're doing this. And then, initially, and what your foundations are and really your core reason and your why. Hopefully that answered your question. I don't see any questions pop up, so hopefully that was helpful. I know that sometimes they take a minute. So if you have any questions, if you're on the replay, of course, feel free to let me know. You're always welcome to ask questions in here, and I will come back and answer them later. Thank you guys for being here. I'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll go on to day 2. Hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Thanks again for being here. Take care, and see you soon. Bye.